Let's now shift our attention to the other big story that we are tracking on WION Pulse. And this, of course, is the meeting between Emmanuel Macron and Rishi Sunak. Now, before the two of them sat down in Paris, critics had in fact called their bets. It was supposed to be the beginning of a resetting of relations. The United Kingdom and France are one of the biggest powers in Europe. But some past differences, of course, have overshadowed their ties. The meeting, however, turned out to be a pretty interesting one. The camaraderie was there for everyone to see. Listen to what was in fact said.
Now, if we're honest, the relationship between our two countries has had its challenges in recent years. And I'm not just referring to France knocking England out of the World Cup, but I believe today's meeting does mark a new beginning, an entente renewed.
Now, behind the smiles and the bromance that was very visible between these two leaders, the United Kingdom and France, remember, haven't seen eye to eye on many issues. One sticking point, of course, has been that of migrants crossing over the English Channel and making their way into Britain. And now the two countries have a full-fledged plan, or at least something that resembles a plan to try and tackle a crisis which is not an easy one to solve. Rishi Sunak has already made cracking down of illegal migration as a part of his key priority. But even for France, this is an issue that has been a hot potato in every single election campaign. The new migrants deal is a joint initiative. Britain is going to pay for it and France is going to build it on its land. It's a $577 million project and the construction will take place over the span of the next 3 years.
We're announcing a new detention centre in northern France, a new command centre bringing our enforcement teams together in one place for the first time, and an extra 500 new officers patrolling French beaches, all underpinned by more drones and other surveillance technologies that will help ramp up the interception rate.
We agreed on November 14th on a renewed, ambitious bilateral framework to continue the fight against irregular immigration. We have today decided to continue in this direction in a very operational, concrete way while being aware of the shared nature of our responsibility.
Now, there is going to be enhanced patrolling. Drones will be used to secure the area and also a detention centre will be built. This, of course, appears to be the simple plan that they are trying to put in place. Now, all of this is being done to stop the migrants from travelling in small boats across the English Channel. It is a narrow arm of the Atlantic Ocean. It separates the southern coast of England from the northern coast of France. And this, of course, is the usual route that is taken by many migrants from Africa, West Asia and South Asia. These are people who are desperate, who are fleeing from war, poverty and corrupt governments and killings. The hope is, of course, to find a better life, but the route is a difficult one, which Britain now wants to make even more difficult. The two former investment bankers have done what the past leaders have failed to do. The usual mudslingings have been replaced by smiles. It, in many senses, has brought Europe closer, or at least that is what it looks like. But what lies behind these smiles is going to be an interesting sort of a relationship that will be seen over the course of the next few months. Now, talking about Europe, Rishi Sunak's visit to Paris is part of a bigger goal. Sunak has successfully ended the many revolving doors of 10 Downing Street, and now it's time to focus on the continent. It started with fixing problems in Northern Ireland's post-Brexit deal, and now it is about solving differences with France. It is safe to say that London is looking at a renewed goodwill with the rest of Europe, especially with uncertainties mounting on the other side of the continent. All right, now to give us more insights in terms of what this visit by Rishi Sunak to Paris, of course, means, and also this deal that's now been struck to try and crack down on illegal migration into Britain, we're being joined in by our correspondent Alex Izat, who is joining us live from London and has been tracking the story very closely for us. Alex, this is an interesting deal that's been struck between London and Paris. The idea is to crack down on illegal immigration. There have been laws that have been passed in the past to try and stop the migrants from crossing over in Britain. Is there any scope that this is likely to actually make a real difference on the ground in stopping the migrants from coming over?
Well, that's a very good question, because the money that is being pulled in from the UK government to France is, what we understand, is £500 million over the next 3 years. And so far, from 2014, we've already given 250 million, and yet the boats have still been coming. Now, we did have that press conference, which obviously talked about more than just the illegal migrant crisis. But the things that we found out from the discussion was that France and Macron himself said that it wasn't just a French issue, that it was also an EU issue when he was asked about the potential return agreement. That was not on the table. We did know that before that the meeting and the press conference happened, but he did clarify that it wasn't up to France to put in a return agreement in place. It was actually up to the EU, and by having this conversation between the French President and the British Prime Minister, that it could potentially open doors, as there seems to be more of a collaboration. But things that we didn't really understand or find out with regards to the detention centre is exactly how much France will be paying towards it, because we do understand that there will also be some French money, so the taxpayers will be asking from their government what exactly percentage that they're going to be putting in. We don't also know exactly how it's going to work legally. So if the French government and the police officers that are bordering the patrol take people from small boats or from gangs, how are they arrested, how are they detained, and where will they be sent to? These questions have yet to be answered. In all of this camaraderie and collaboration that's going on with the bromance between Sunak and Macron, there are still some questions that really do need to be answered. And the one is, how is this going to work? It hasn't worked so far. Is this money just going to be frittered away? I'm also hearing rumblings within Whitehall itself at the moment, where a lot of backbenchers are very concerned, and they will try and speak to Sunak when he returns.
Absolutely, indeed. When Rishi Sunak returns, he'll have a lot of answering to do. $577 million of British taxpayers' money being spent to stop migrants on the coast of France, because immigration is also a problem for France as well. And how will that money be spent is something that the British taxpayers would be wanting to know. Thank you very much indeed, Alex Isaac, for joining and getting us all those insights there.